For the offspring of Lumivari and human, all roads to greatness cross through the landscape of the psyche. Seraphina Aurelius, Empress of the Galactic Empire, Memoirs.
Chapter 2. Rithalia's voice shimmered in the invisible web of psychic air between them. Caden, you stand on the precipice of becoming. Are you ready? Caden's eyes glinted like dark stars against the tapestry of Rithalia's psychic realm. Absolutely, teach me, Queen Rithalia. Rithalia gestured with her ephemeral appendage, carving out a section of her psychic world. Your first task is to visualize your psychic aura. Manifest it here. Eagerness shining on his face, Caden focused. His brows scrunched. He reached out into the space where mind met thought. A soft glow began to emanate around him, a faint echo of a nascent sun. Ah, but you're not merely casting a candle's light, are you? Rithalia observed, her voice tinged with something akin to pride. Caden's face flushed, but he pushed harder. The glow intensified, no longer a flicker but a flame. I think I have it. What's next? Defense, Rithalia said curtly. Guard yourself against invaders of thought. How? Caden's eyes had that intense gaze, that laser-like focus that comes from a mind hungry for learning. Psychic barriers are less walls and more mazes. You must mislead your enemy. Convince them that they wander in their own thoughts, not yours. Watch. A sudden tempest blew across the psychic space, winding around Caden. He sensed confusion, false memories, and a loop of thought that led nowhere. Amazing, Caden murmured, already dissecting the technique. But can I do it? Yes, you can, and you will. Rithalia's voice revealed no doubt. Caden steeled himself. He tried to conjure mazes, imbuing them with fragments of false thoughts. His first attempts were clumsy. The second round was more nuanced, and the maze took shape. Rithalia penetrated his maze without issue, but seemed pleased. A commendable beginning. They'll improve with time, these labyrinths of yours. His eyes sparkled. I'll build ones you can't escape from, eventually. Oh, indeed, Rithalia's voice reflected an amusement more telling than her words. Perhaps you may. At that. Now, for the sharper edge of the psyche. Offense. It's time you learn the psychic spear. Caden felt a thrill of anticipation, eyes widening. A spear made of thought? Precisely. A concentration of psychic energy, honed into a weapon. The more focused, the more deadly. His eagerness palpable, Caden was already a reservoir of bubbling energy, ready to be shaped. Rithalia's psychic form elongated into a piercing spear of thought which whizzed past Caden. Your turn. Caden took a deep, psychic breath. He gathered the swirling energies, attempting to mold them into a spear. It wobbled, lacking true form, and dissipated. Ah, a flicker, and no more, said Rithalia. But flickers are the half-sisters of flames. Encouraged, Caden tried again, this time carving each piece of his psychic energy with purpose. It held shape longer, but still wavered. Ah, you're nearly there, Rithalia observed. The third time. Caden's focus tightened like a vice. The psychic energy complied, sharpening into a spear that whizzed through the psychic realm. Rithalia's expression of approval echoed louder than any words, a resonance that filled the psychic space around them. Excellent! But you mustn't forget, this weapon is but an extension of yourself, and thus it is as strong or as weak as my focus. Caden completed her thought, his eyes betraying a profound realization. Very good. You learn fast, but the journey has just begun. You'll need these skills and more for what lies ahead. Rithalia's voice had an edge, not of urgency, but of a pending storm. What lies ahead? His eyes sought answers, eager yet filled with an undefined trepidation. All in due time, Caden. All in due time. For now, focus on the mastery of your newfound abilities. And as he concentrated, relishing his achievements while anticipating future lessons, Rithalia's voice softly echoed in the depths of his mind. Sleep, my pupil. Tomorrow's sun will cast new shadows. With that, he was back in his room, his physical eyes blinking against the morning light, as if waking from the most vivid of dreams. And yet, in his hands, he felt the after-tingle of a psychic spear, too real to be simply imagined. The next psychic session commenced with a question, as most deep learnings often do. Have you ever considered, Caden, that a psychic duel is more chess than war? Caden, still immersed in the residue of his last lesson, blinked his mental eyes. Chess, you say? Yes, a game of psychic chess, where each move could mean a gambit or a feint. It's about predicting your opponent's moves while shrouding your own. That sounds incredibly complex, Caden said, his mental form somewhat foggy, almost as if he were wrestling with the implications of Rithalia's words. It's meant to be. Simplicity often lies at the surface. Depth is inherently complex. Now, let's duel. Here? Now? Rithalia's psychic form shimmered, its edges tightening into a defensive maze. If not now, when? Strike. Caden hesitated for a fraction of a second, which in psychic time felt longer. Then his spear materialized, shaky but present. He launched it towards Rithalia. With an almost negligent flicker, Rithalia diverted it. You hesitate. Psychic conflict tolerates neither doubt nor delay. I'll remember that, Caden said, his mental voice tinged with a sort of self-directed irony that one usually associates with lessons learned the hard way. Try again, this time with intent. The spear Caden conjured was sharper this time, its flight truer. It bypassed Rithalia's maze, almost grazing her essence. A ripple of acknowledgement spread through her psychic form. Better. Now, can you defend as you attack? The notion caught him off guard. Both at the same time. Life rarely attacks you in turns, Caden. Taking a deep metaphorical breath, Caden envisioned his psychic spear in one hand and his maze in another. He launched and shielded simultaneously. It was imperfect. His maze flickered erratically, and his spear wobbled, but both existed. Rithalia's psychic applause was a crescendo of warm light. That's it. Not mastered, but understood. The first step is often the hardest. Caden couldn't hold back his mental grin, an emanation of delight in this psychic realm. This is incredible. I can't wait to learn more. And you shall. But for now, rest. Psychic growth, like any growth, requires periods of assimilation. Back in the physical realm, Caden found himself in his bedroom again. The light from his reading lamp seemed oddly prosaic after the luminosity of the psychic world. Yet, the words Rithalia had spoken about psychic chess, about the layers of complexity, resonated in him as he pondered them. A small smile touching his lips. Lying in his bed, he felt the weight of his newfound potential press upon him like a tangible thing. There was so much more to learn, a universe of psychic intricacies to explore. And as he drifted into sleep, the vestiges of his psychic maze and spear still dancing in his mind's eye, he realized how utterly changed he was, even as everything around him stayed the same. It was a dichotomy, a tension between the person he had been and the one he he was becoming. The thoughts that filled his sleep were neither dreams nor mere reflections. They were aspirations sparkling with the iridescence of potential yet unrealized. And for Caden Valtieri, potential was now a landscape yet uncharted, but inviting exploration, a landscape that for the first time in his life he felt equipped to navigate. In our next lesson, Caden, Rithalia's psychic voice hummed with a quiet excitement, we shall traverse the membrane that separates thought from reality. Do you mean? Yes. Your psychic spear will transition from the inner landscape of your mind to the outer world of tangible existence. Caden's mental form vibrated with a shimmering eagerness. Let's do it. Be prepared. This will strain you in ways you haven't yet experienced. Strain? You make it sound so appealing, Caden quipped, his mental laughter like golden sunlight splattering across the psychic space they shared. Rithalia projected a warm glow, her equivalent of a chuckle. The spear will be a manifestation of your will and intent, focused into energy. To bring that into the physical realm requires utmost concentration. Let's begin. Back in the real world, Caden sat in a meditative posture, eyes closed but mind wide open. His fingers twitched involuntarily, then stilled. The air around him seemed to thicken, heavy, with impending significance. He heard Rithalia's guiding voice, not with his ears, but inside the deeper chambers of his mind. Concentrate, Caden. You've done this in the psychic realm, now do it here. His fingers began to twitch again, but this time the motion wasn't random. Blue tendrils of psychic electricity sparked from his fingertips, crackling into the space around him. They seemed almost hesitant at first, then grew bolder, as if gaining assurance from Caden's focused intent. The tendrils coiled, twisted and expanded, forming an intricate lattice in the air, a framework for something far grander. As Caden concentrated, the psychic electricity intensified, its crackling sound becoming a whining hum of energy and transition. His physical hand extended, mirroring his will, and from the swirling vortex of his intent the spear began to form. It was an ethereal object, translucent yet substantial, a manifestation of psychic energy rendered in physical space. The room seemed to dim as the spear gathered light unto itself, becoming a radiant pole of incandescent blue. As the spear fully materialized, a flash of energy cascaded through Caden's body, jolting him with the force of its passage. It was as though the universe had exhaled through him, and in that exhalation created something unimaginably, unbelievably amazing. The spear hung in the air for a moment, an impossible artifact of will and energy, before gently settling into his outstretched hand. You've done it, Caden. Rithalia's psychic praise washed over him, a comforting tide. I've done it, he echoed, still staring at the spear, almost disbelieving. The energy it radiated tingled against his skin like droplets of pure sunlight. But this is so much more than I imagined. Indeed. But remember, with new abilities come new responsibilities and new dangers. Dangers? The spear isn't just a manifestation of psychic energy. It's a part of you, your will given form. If it's damaged, you could be too. And the energy it consumes is your energy. Caden felt the weight of Rithalia's words sink into him. The exhilaration of the moment tinged with a newfound understanding of the stakes. He allowed the spear to dissipate, the lattice of psychic energy unraveling like a tapestry of light being undone. The room returned to its usual mundane dimness, yet somehow it felt altered, as if the universe itself had shifted to accommodate this new impossibility. As you learn, you'll grow, Rithalia intoned. But growing is a precarious thing, a balance of potential and peril. Never forget that. Caden nodded, understanding now more than ever that his life had irrevocably changed. He was a part of something greater, something magnificent, yet fraught with complexities he had yet to grasp. As he opened his eyes, the real world seemed somehow less solid, less final than it had before. It was as if he had peeked behind the curtain of reality and found it to be just one stage in a cosmic theater of infinite acts. The psychic spear, even now absent, seemed to linger in the corners of his perception, a tangible reminder of untapped possibilities and, yes, lurking dangers. As we delve further into the waters of your newfound abilities, began Rithalia, the gravity in her psychic voice like the tolling of a distant bell, it is paramount that you understand the currents that have brought us here. Brace yourself, Caden. What we're going to discuss next will reverberate beyond these psychic walls, into the very fabric of the universe, said Rithalia, her psychic tendrils glowing a shade darker, intensifying like a brooding storm cloud. Caden felt a tug of serious intent in her psychic emanations, different from the tutelage she'd given him before. Okay, I'm ready. What's next? Rithalia's psychic projection took on an ethereal form, the bioluminescent colors transforming into a soft, entrancing dance of light. There are things your history books will not tell you, Caden. Secrets that have been held close to the hearts of the Galactic Queen and the emperors and empresses that have reigned. A shimmering orb appeared between them. Scenes played out, holograph-like, as Rithalia spoke, her voice reverberating through the psychic space. Over 8 millennia ago, our Galactic Queen Novastra forged an alliance with the first emperor, Octavius Aurelius. The universe was younger then, and so were we, the Lumivari. We were discovered on Thalassar by humans who realized that a symbiotic bond with us would open doors to unimaginable powers. The orb showed Octavius and Novastra standing on an alien planet, their eyes filled with the kind of resolve only born from dreams, bigger than themselves. Thalassar was initially just a remote outpost, a mere speck in the human federation. But the psychic abilities we offered changed everything. It shifted the axis of power toward this newfound alliance. Caden watched, entranced, as the holograph showed humans and Lumivari coming together, their energies intertwining. The next image showed armies and fleets with Lumivari nestling on the shoulders of their human companions. Octavius had an idea, a grand vision to spread this power across the galaxy. Novastra heeded this and sent her children, the planetary queens like myself, to take root on new worlds. With every expansion, the symbiotic bond spread, and so did the Empire. Caden felt the psychic waves roll off Rithalia, each word carrying the weight of centuries of civilization. And so we have it, a galactic empire that is a force so immense, so intricately interconnected, that its dissolution would be catastrophic, not just for humans, but for us as well. As she spoke, her tendrils began to glow brighter. Caden sensed her mix of pride and apprehension, a complex emotion that he was just beginning to grasp.